Good afternoon, everyone. It's nice to see so many of you. We have a beautiful, beautiful evening here in Warsaw. So it's my pleasure to see so many of you being present at our webinar instead of enjoying your free time outside. So I hope you won't regret this 45 minutes during which we will try to find out how can we improve our listening skills in English. All right, if anything is wrong, please let me know in the question box. Otherwise, I will continue. Right, fluency is our main target when we learn languages. At the moment, I'm learning Spanish. This is my second year of Spanish, and I found myself in a very interesting position because I'm a teacher, and suddenly I went to the other side of the barricade, and I want to be fluent in English. Interesting experience indeed. And I'm learning active skills like speaking, which I have kind of control over it. I'm learning how to write in Spanish. I can also control it because I can revise, I can check, I can write again. I'm also learning passive skills. One of them is reading, and to some extent I also have control over it because I can read again and again. I can check up some difficult words, or I can stop reading at some point. But what I as a learner and I as a teacher find the most difficult skill in a foreign language, paradoxically, is listening. Why? Because really in everyday interaction with speakers, we have practically no control over it. We have very limited resources to control listening in live interaction. So, to be continued later on what I mean. If you look at this graph, and we won't go too much into theory tonight, so please don't be upset. It's only few factors at the beginning. We spend some time on communicating, like about 70% of our interaction with people is communicating. And look, out of this, 45% is listening. So in other words, we listen more than we speak. We listen much more than we read, and of course much more than we write. So from this graph you can see how important it is to be right and correct in decoding a language message which comes to us. During this short webinar, I will ask you sometimes some questions as usual. And this is the first one. Why do we listen? Why do we listen to other people? What is the purpose of listening? Can you give me some hints from your side? Can you write in the question box, why do you listen? Why do you listen to people? You personally, in your normal life, at work, what is the purpose of listening? Do we have any answers already? Why do we listen? We listen for what? Yeah, Ola, to communicate. Maciek wrote a very nice statement that speech is silver and silence is gold. Yeah. Ola, yes, we want to know something. We are listening because we want to find out some facts about our work, to understand. Yes, exactly. The most general objective of listening is to obtain information, right? Or to understand what's going on around us. Sometimes we listen because we want to learn something, and sometimes we listen purely for enjoyment, like songs, or we listen to English version of films or favorite TV shows. Okay? So for me, really, as a teacher, and for me as a learner of a different language, listening means real learning. I learn a lot from what I listen. And we can distinguish two types of listening. It applies to our private life, it applies to our professional life, it also applies to our language style in learning foreign language. We've got active and passive listening. Any ideas? Again, this is the question from my side. What is the difference? What is a possible difference between an active listener and passive listener? Who is who? What activity is what? When do we listen actively and when do we listen passively? If you have any ideas, please do not hesitate to share them with us in the chat box. Any? Yeah, Maciek, very good. Active listening is listening with understanding, yes. Dorota has also a good point. Active listening is very often combined with speaking, yes. We are giving some signs from our side, not the other side, but from our side that we follow, that we agree or we don't agree. So we are kind of involved in what somebody else is saying. So passive listening is just hearing, yes, some kind of blah, blah, blah. We even don't know what this person is talking about because our mind is not involved. Active listening is listening with a purpose. We're looking for certain information, for certain facts, figures, and then our brain works totally, totally differently. Okay. As you probably know, a lot of communication breakdowns and misunderstandings happen due to grammar, wrong grammar that we use in a foreign language, or we use wrong words, or we don't say things properly, or we don't understand what other people are saying. And now look at the proportions. They're a little bit surprising if you compare them with the way we are taught during our language courses. Because look, only 10% of misunderstanding and communication breakdowns happen because of grammar mistakes. Something about 20-25% of these breakdowns and misunderstandings happen due to wrong vocabulary. And what is really surprising, and it was surprising when I learned about that for the first time in my life, is that over 65% of breakdowns and misunderstandings happen due to wrong pronunciation, wrong stress, wrong accent, and that applies also to listening. If we don't understand what other person is saying, the communication breakdown is much more likely to happen than the fact that this person uses wrong grammar and wrong vocabulary. If we think about our learning styles and our language courses, this proportion is absolutely upside down, yes? We spend hours and hours on grammar exercises and hours on vocabulary extension. And very often only a small part of our training is concentrated on listening skills. So, just an anecdote to make you aware what can happen. My English friends, they used to say, oh yeah, this is English, but it's not English. So for them, the content is correct, but the way in which it is said doesn't sound really English. Therefore, they have some problems with understanding. And that happens also to us as the recipients of messages in a foreign language. Very often my students, my friends, colleagues, family ask me, why is it so difficult to understand native speakers? Why after few years of language courses in English, we arrive at the London airport at Heathrow, and the first contact with a native speaker, although now we have a lot of non-native speakers working there, but the first contact with the real native speaker is shocking because we don't even recognize this type of English. It's so strange, so different. Simple message is very difficult to understand. So my question is, why is it difficult? On this slide, I already showed you the word chunks, but please ignore it. And if you write in the chat box, what makes you feel that English is difficult, the real native speakers' English is difficult to understand? Okay. Yeah, Elżbieta, you must have seen my presentation, yes, because they use a lot of words which are fillers, which disturb us. Any other ideas why English is so difficult? Speed, Claudia, exactly. The speed of speech, the speed of speaking. Any other? Okay, so let's look at the possible reasons why listening and decoding and comprehending native speakers is so difficult for us. The first thing is that they make everything to sound like a one word. So we have a chunk. Chunk is something like a block. So we don't have a separate words, but these words somehow, join together and they constitute one long word which, turns out to be a sentence. So they join words, so the words, are not separate but combined into one longish kind of word which turns out to be a sentence. Of course, speed. Yes, although Spanish speakers, I think they speak really more quickly than Brits, but that's my personal opinion. The variety of accents. If you look at our language, we have few varieties of Polish, but definitely our language is, more homogeneous, while English is so different, starting from Australia through Africa. If you look at the Jamaican accent, Canadian, not to mention different accents in the United States, and even small Great Britain has so many different accents that sometimes you can be lost. Yes, in everyday communication, native speakers use a lot of slang, which is, I would say, at the moment it's okay, but probably next year nobody would remember these words or expressions. Therefore, teaching and learning slang is quite tricky because these words appear and disappear very quickly. The same in Polish. Native speakers also use a lot of idioms which have nothing to do with the real meaning of the words included in idioms. So we can be lost. And as I think it was Elżbieta mentioned, that they use a lot of word fillers such as and this communication is a little bit distracted. So what can we do? What kind of ways we can use to improve our listening skills in English? Right. Some of you may know, those of you who attend my webinars, I'm a great fan of films, and I think they're a very useful tool in language education. So the first thing that came to my mind was get hooked on an English TV show. In other words, on some TV series in which English is a leading language. By the way, this is, off the record. Do you have any American, British, or I don't know, any other TV shows or series which you can possibly watch in original version? For example, my favorite, especially recently, is of course Game of Thrones. But do you watch any other? Can you write in the chat box, in the question box? Tech Talks, yeah, Joanna, great, we'll mention this. Friends, Ola, yeah, I love Friends. Yeah, immortal Friends, that's true. The thing is that when we, House of Cards, Piotr, exactly, when we watch something that we like, and this is the role of emotions in education, if you like something, your brain is twice or three times more ready to record and to store the material, the new words, the new expressions, the new situations. If we like something, we are like a sponge. We are getting knowledge much faster, and what is more important, this knowledge is stored much deeper. Okay, and of course you can spend hours watching your TV series, so you're exposed to English for the long time. Yeah, I can see that you mentioned BBC, Martin, Downtown Abbey, Agnieszka, it's a lovely series. Yes, so a lot of them. Another method is listening in the background. you can find a lot of stuff on the websites, on YouTube, on different websites, to which I will send you links in the materials after the webinar. So if you find some interesting ones for you, you can play them on your headphones, for example, while you work, or you ride a bike, I don't know, exercise, or even cook dinner, because that's the way to spend even more time listening to English. And then you have no excuse like, okay, I have to go out shopping, or I have to cook dinner for my family. Yes, you can do these things, but, you know, in your ears, you can listen to English, which is like flowing through your mind. Something that may surprise you, listening on low volume. Because in the normal situation, in the classroom, that's not normal, but that's normal educational situation, we're exposed to very clear recordings which are played to us at the kind of high volume, because my students say, oh, Eva, can you turn it up because I can't hear? And then I say, yes, it's good that you can't hear it, because in the real world, you can't control how loudly people around you speak. And you have to train yourself how to behave in such situation, how to survive. You have to tune your ear to English, which is not clear and, you know, played on a high volume, but to, you know, some murmurs, to some noises. It's very, very powerful exercise. Another one, listen while you read. So you've got a text. It can be a text taken from the course book, if there is a video or a CD accompanying, or you can print out something from internet, which has some podcast, and then you read a text at the same time you are listening. Why this method is very, very powerful and important? Because most of us are visual learners. So if we have sound which is kind of complemented by the visual version of this text, the text goes deeper into our memory, because we are using two senses. We are using our sight and we are using our hearing. Okay? None of us likes listening to ourselves. I must tell you that I hate listening to my webinars afterwards, because I think my voice is so silly. Anyway, I hope you receive it in a different way. But if you listen to yourself in the sense that you record yourself speaking English, I don't know, using your computer or a smartphone, then you can play it back. So, you know, you take a text, you read it, and of course, while reading, you record it, and then you listen to it and you try to figure out what's wrong, what you don't like about it. If you are lucky enough and you have an English-speaking friend or a nice teacher who can have a look at that, this is even better. It has very, very powerful motivating element, because after a few weeks or months, you can clearly see the progress. Okay, the method, which is a little bit old-fashioned, but believe me, very successful, is the drilling method. Drilling means doing, in the language learning, drilling means doing things all the time. You say something all the time, all the time. It's very behavioral, but it's a really old method of recording things in your memory. For some reason, it's proved that 30 times is the minimum. So you do it all the time, you repeat the phrase, yes, and then by repeating, by saying, you learn how to pronounce it. So you listen 30 times and you repeat 30 times. Of course, very nice, but a bit longish and extensive method is listening to an audiobook, which you can do, for example, when you ride a car, ride a bike or drive a car, or when you're traveling or walking or jogging. this is nice because the book has longer plots. The action is longer, and if you're listening to, let's say, Agatha Christie criminal story, you're so curious what's going to happen that you're not listening for 5 minutes, but you can listen for, I don't know, 2 hours. That's great because for longer time you're exposed to English, right? Another one, the technique taken from real life, is listening to two things at once. Because again, in normal life, when you're in the street or you're, for example, at the busy office, it's very unlikely that you're speaking only with one person and you're listening only to one person. Usually there are some, noises around, some other people are around, like, I don't know, at the restaurant. And all of them are speaking at once. Your friends are speaking, the waiter is asking something, and your mind has to be able to focus on different bits and pieces of communication which is delivered to you. So sometimes you need the skill to tune out unimportant noises, yes, unimportant listening bits and pieces, and concentrate on one channel of communication. So if you play two recordings, I don't know, there can be a song which is played on the radio and news on TV. Okay, it's a little bit cacophonic, but believe me, for your language development, it's very, very, very beneficial. All right, let's go on. Again, we engage our emotions. When we like a film, we are more likely, or a book, we are more likely to follow, to get involved, to record. The same with music, songs, and songs have lyrics, sometimes very beautiful lyrics and very poetic lyrics. Some songs are not good examples of grammar because lyrics are written for the sake of rhythm and not for the sake of proper English, but we are now talking about not correctness, but rather fluency in listening. So listen to a song, listen to your favorite song. I don't know, now there is this, crazy little song by Justin Timberlake about feelings, etc. Good song for a summer evening. And why not sit down and jot down, write down what Justin is really singing about. Probably it's nothing very deep, but it would be nice to write what you hear and then compare with the lyrics. Again, in the materials, I will send you a link to the website with all possible lyrics in the world of English songs, and you can check if you understood it correctly. And you involve your emotions, positive emotions, of course. Listening at a slow speed. That's one of the arguments that it's difficult to understand native speakers because they speak so fast. Let's try to decode, to decipher what is hidden in this fast rapid speech. Let's play, if possible, and some devices, even some smartphones, often this function of slowing down what's being said. And then we can see that this blah, blah, blah thing is not so difficult because in this blah, blah, there is nice structure, and under this is hidden quite simple message. So slow speed in some sense breaks the myth that English is so difficult. We just need to get used to it. Two other methods. I'll show them to you at once. So listening only for intonation and listening only for stress. Because we do have a problem. We, I mean Polish speakers and generally Slavs. Because for us in our Slavic languages, neither intonation nor stress play very significant role. Okay, they are important, but they don't change the message. In English, yes, they do. Those of you who attended my webinar 2 months ago, I showed you how different stress can change the meaning of the verb into a noun. So we have the verb to order, yes, and we have a noun order. So different pronunciation, different stress, different intonation change completely the meaning. So listen and do not pay attention to words. Do not pay attention to what is said, but how it is said, even if it is exaggerated. Okay? Some of you mentioned, I think it was Joanna, yes, Joanna mentioned TED Talks. Absolutely fantastic resource both for teachers, for learners, for people who are interested what's going on in the modern world. Listening to TED speeches, especially if you have a chance, I think most of them now have British subtitle, English subtitles. So it's a lovely way of learning something interesting about the world itself, and also seeing kind of different English in action, because usually even in TED Talks this language is a little bit more official. This is something what I like, try to do an impression, and what I mean here is to pick up an English speaker, can be American, I mean any nationality, it can be a real person or it can be a fictitious character from a movie. It can be the Queen, Elizabeth II, and try to listen how they speak, and try to make a little fun of it and try to imitate them. We often make jokes about royal family among our friends, and we imitate their accent. It's a fantastic way of training your ear to different types of English, right? So it feels maybe strange, but it's a good fun. And again, in this type of improving our listening skills, we involve positive emotions because this is fun. Very often we avoid, because we're a bit comfortable, we avoid difficult situations. And an English speaker with an accent, with a difficult accent, like for example Scottish accent, for me the most difficult, maybe not Scottish, I like Scottish English, but definitely some parts of London, definitely some accents from other countries than Great Britain are really difficult to understand. And we think, oh God, why should I bother? I will play this movie with Polish subtitles, or I will not watch it because it's too difficult. No, try to use this challenge. Try to expose yourself to this strange English. And after 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, you will see that your mind starts to decode, and your brain starts to understand even very, very tough types of English accents. When we listen to one side of a conversation, this is the technique. For example, we can use a text of a telephone conversation in which you have only one person speaking, and there are slots, there is silence for, let's say, the other person. What you can do by listening to this person number one, you can imagine what the other person on the line, on the telephone line says. So you can say it or not. You can, I don't know, predict the development of conversation. Also involves a bit of fun. And the technique which probably some of us remember from schools is shadowing. So shadowing is like silent repeating after the person. For example, you're listening to a piece of a text or piece of conversation, and you're following this person saying the same. Yeah. Well, if you want, you can print a text, but listen once, listen twice, and maybe during the third listening, try to repeat, not very loudly, because this master copy should dominate. Repeat and try to follow pace, try to follow intonation, try to follow stress. Pay attention how pauses are made, yes, because pauses are also important part of your understanding. Okay. We said a few slides before, we said about listening to something at least 30 times. So this is like in a row, very extensive and intensive listening. But maybe a good idea would be to listen to the same quite difficult thing every day for a week. And again, we have something like element of motivation built in, because if you compare your skill to understand things that you hear on Saturday and compare it with Monday, for example, when you started it, you see the progress. And there is nothing more rewarding and nothing more motivating for a student of a language, foreign language, than the sense of achievement, that the sense of progress. So strongly recommend it. Sometimes we can listen with a friend. For example, we can watch this horrible Scottish but interesting criminal movie and try to guess what people say on the screen. This is also a nice reason for a nice start for discussion. Again, on the YouTube, we can find a lot of theoretical bits and pieces about languages, and this is something that is often neglected at the very beginning of our language education. That is, to what extent language systems differ. And in the area of pronunciation, phonetics, Polish and English are very different. And we have problems with some sounds. We have problems with pronouncing th and the, and long vowels like e and short vowels like ö. This is the pronunciation problem. But we also have a problem with decoding the meaning of some words, and this I will show you in a minute. And the meaning differs in this sense that but for example, native speakers pronounce the words with a longer vowel or shorter vowel, and they get completely different meaning, right? So come back to the roots and enjoy a short 10-minute language lesson on the sounds, on the phonetics of English. And sometimes you can listen only for specific information. For numbers, play the same text, for example, from the business book, but each time concentrate on something different. Like, I don't know, the first listening would be concentrating on numbers. So how many numbers and what numbers do I hear? Then concentrating on names of the companies. Then concentrating on verbs or business verbs. Then concentrating on articles, etc., etc., etc. Pick up some language chunks that you would concentrate on and listen for this gist. Do you think oh, Magic, you sent very interesting link for Scottish accent. So if you don't mind, I will include this link into materials. Okay, thank you. Could you tell me, is there anything from what I've said, is there anything that is of any interest to you that you think you can use, or maybe you've already used? Which of these hints and tips you're likely to use to improve your English listening skills? Marcin, podcast on YouTube, yes. This is enormous resource. We have hundreds and hundreds and thousands of different materials. Yes, any other? Okay, I've got some answers, but my magic is showing that time flies very quickly. So let's go. In the materials that you're going to receive next week, there will be some communication strategies included. Here we've got only very simple ones, because very often we are afraid to react to some piece of information which we don't understand, yes? And we are ashamed and we are afraid to say simple things like, could you speak up, please? Could you say it again, please? I'm not quite sure I understand what you're saying. These are, of course, very simple ones, but I'll send you many, many more expressions which we can use as non-native speakers. There is nothing wrong that we use them to clarify or to make sure that we understood what's being said. Okay. As you know, English is the language without flexi, so it's very important to have the context. And when we listen, we should also recognize the context, because one word can have a lot of meanings, and it's the context which decides whether we listened to the message and decoded the message correctly. These words, which can cause some problems, very briefly, they are called homophones, so they sound alike, but they have different spelling and, of course, different meaning. So just, very quickly, two examples. As these birds, they look the same. The word weather and weather, yes, the pronunciation is exactly the same. So when we hear something like this, we can be confused. So we need context. Again, good listening skills involve understanding and being able to understand from the context what's being said. So as the example suggests, please check whether the weather is good for tomorrow's picnic. When you see it on the screen, it's okay, it's easy, wow, nothing wrong. But when you hear it in a rapid speech, then there may be a moment of confusion or even sometimes embarrassment. Homophones are not only double, they are triple or even more, like the one you can see in front of you. So peas, peas, and peas have totally different meaning when we put a different context, because we don't see them, we only hear their pronunciation. So UN troops were sent for a new peace-making mission. Yes, especially these days. Would you like a piece of cake or peas, beans, lentils? All of them are, round vegetables, which are supposed to be very healthy. Apart from homophones, we have another tricky bits of English language, especially tricky for us when we listen and our ear is not trained and our ear is not tuned. They're called the minimal pairs. A minimal pair is a pair of words which have practically the same pronunciation. For Polish ear, it sounds the same, but it's not. And it's not only different in pronunciation, but it's different in meaning. So you have the word ship and you have the word sheep. Yes, Maciek, I will tell about it at the end of this part, because sometimes these differences can be, embarrassing, offensive, or even vulgar. So it's not only confusion, but it can be, offense or embarrassment. And here you can see some minimal pairs. They are, here like representatives, because we have dozens and dozens of them. So we pronounce the first column like so we have bin and bean. We have chip and cheap. We have fill and feel. We have fit and feed. We have grin and green, etc., etc. For us, it's a small difference, but believe me, foreigners who live in Poland, they can't hear a difference between words kasha, like, I don't know, kasha gryczana, and Kasia, the name of a girl or a woman. For them, this is the same sound. So you see, we have similar problem like they do. There are two sounds which don't exist in their language, sh and sh. And we have sounds which practically don't exist in our language, because our E is different than those two. Our E is pronounced more in the middle of our mouth. And of course, what Maciek wrote, we have pairs like bitch and beach, and we have pairs like shit and shit, and sometimes it may cause confusion. Okay, it was a very short jump from the slide to the questions. So do you remember any other or any minimal pairs from the table you've seen just a minute? Or you saw a minute ago? Fit and feed, yes. Any other? Grin, yeah, and green. Fill and feel. Ship and ship, exactly. Right, still, Sheep, ship. Great, great. So it means that you're listening actively. Thank you very much, because this webinar is about listening. So. Right. Those of you who know me and who attended my webinars know that it's not only film industry I'm interested in, but I'm also a little bit freaky about idioms. Yes. Slang is tricky, but idioms in general are helpful, and we don't have to use them, but as listeners, we have to recognize them. So our listening skills should also involve some dose of vocabulary. As I said, we don't need to use idioms actively, but we have to recognize them when they are, said to us. We have to be able to decode the message. Right, so I picked up a few idioms connected with hearing, with ears, etc. So to make the whole thing more logical. If we say in English that we are all ears, that would mean that we are, anybody? That we are listening, yes, we are listening very attentively, that we concentrate only on listening, yes? So, okay, tell me about it. I'm all ears. This is the example. Of course, I want to know. I'm all ears. So when you concentrate on listening to somebody's words, you are all ears, yeah? Especially if these are some gossips, okay? Right, and what we've got then, to grin from ear to ear. If you think about the grinning, grin is a kind of smile. So generally, do you think this is a positive idiom? Oh, sorry. To grin from ear to ear, is it a positive idiom? Yeah? Okay. So we have example, when we saw Paul grinning from ear to ear, we knew that he had passed the exam. So when you grin from ear to ear, you're happy, you're all smiling. Okay? Then again, if you lend an ear, it doesn't mean that you detach it from your body and you give it to somebody, but it means that you are ready to listen, but not for gossips, but you're ready to listen and maybe give advice. Yes, so somebody who has a problem usually comes and asks you to lend an ear. In the example, we have Jenny, and definitely here, Jenny is the best person to talk to because she's always ready to lend an ear. And another one, also very positive, if something is music to your ears, if something is music to my or his ears, do you think it's a positive idiom again? I try to be positive today. Yes, it is positive idiom. It means that we hear something very, very pleasant. Yes, it can be good news. It can be some kind of information, but it can be also a compliment. So if somebody pays us a compliment, we can say that his compliments were music to my ears. If you keep your ear to the ground, it means that you're in touch with the recent events and you are aware of all that is happening and being said. So, to be well informed, in other words, to keep your ear to the ground. And here we have Jack in the example. So we don't know what has been decided, but Jack is keeping his ear to the ground. And the last one, quite often used in business, to hear on the grapevine. It means that you learn about something, about some news, about information, fact, something, but not officially. It's not a gossip, it's not a rumor. So grapevine is an unofficial channel of communication. So I heard about his promotion on the grapevine. Nothing has been announced, but his promotion probably was somehow the news about his promotion was spread unofficially. So these were idioms, and now look at just a few sayings in which hearing or things connected with our ears can be used. So children should be seen, not heard. I think it's very important when you think about our children, which now are mostly heard. I remember when I was a child, we were rather seen, not heard. This is about some kind of discipline, of course. When it's very, very silent, there is no sound which disturbs you. Not easily found in the city, but when you're on holidays, maybe soon you will have your holidays or you just come back from your holidays. There are some places, especially in our beautiful country, when there is so silent that you can hear the grass growing, right? Another piece of advice in which you can find what's connected with hearing, believe nothing of what you hear and only half of what you see, which in a sense puts me as a presenter tonight and generally the whole webinar in quite awkward position, but I hope you will forgive me. Okay, so this is our last little checkup on active listening and attentive listening. Could you please concentrate on this little test? If you listen carefully, you are big ears, all hearing, or all ears? What is the right answer? Yeah, a lot of them. Klaudia, Dorota, Ilona, Ola, Agata, Janek, Ola, Bożena, Maciek, Iwona, everybody got it right. We are all ears. Okay, the second one. When there is complete silence, you can hear, what can you hear? You can hear a fly, you can hear grass growing, or you can hear nothing. B. Perfect. There are so many of you and so many of you giving good answers that I even don't have time to mention all names, so please forgive me. Definitely you can hear grass growing. And the last one, if you hear something exceptionally nice, like a compliment, it's honey to your heart, music to your ears, or angel's voice. Yes, okay, this time you were so quick. It's music to your ears. So what she said or what he said, what sometimes my students tell me, it's music to my ears as a teacher. Right, so it seems that we're slowly but surely coming to an end of our very nice meeting. Again, everything that you've seen on the screens will be sent to you, but not only that, but much more, especially links, examples, and some pieces of friendly advice. If you have any questions, if you want to discuss with me some things, please do not hesitate to contact Worldwide School and me, Eva Getz. And anyway, thank you for joining us tonight. It was a real pleasure, and hope to see you soon on another webinar. Thank you very, very much.
Dziękuję bardzo, Ewo, dziękuję Państwu za udział w tym webinarium. Na koniec jeszcze tylko przypomnienie, że wyślemy do Państwa niedługo materiały z tego webinarium, wyślemy także link do nagrania, tak więc mogą się Państwo spodziewać w połowie przyszłego tygodnia korespondencji od nas. Kolejne zaproszenia na kolejne webinaria wyślemy na początku sierpnia prawdopodobnie, tak więc będą to webinary na pewno z niemieckiego i angielskiego, tak więc serdecznie zapraszamy i zapraszamy na kolejne webinaria.